All right, let's jump right into it. Today, we're decoding something that is literally going to reshape how you visualize the very building blocks of reality. We are looking at some seriously paradigm-shifting source material regarding the All That's Holy system, and it asks us to completely rethink the periodic table, the structure of matter, and honestly, the fundamental mechanics of the universe itself. Here's our clear holographic blueprint for today's explainer. We'll start by busting the chemical accident myth, then break down the 13-layer atomic anatomy, explore the true ATH elemental chart, zoom in on a few specific elements, and finally, wrap up with how chemistry is really just curvature arithmetic. Let's get to it. So, part 1, the chemical accident myth. To really grasp the all that's holy, or ATH, framework, we've got to first unlearn this idea that our universe is built on random chaos. You know how mainstream science usually paints atomic behavior like this game of random probability clouds? We're taught to think of electron orbitals as blurry zones of, well, statistical likelihood. But our source material asks a massive question. Are elements really just random chemical accidents floating in a chaotic void? Or is there an incredibly precise engine running beneath the whole shebang? This right here brilliantly illustrates the paradigm shift. We're moving completely away from formless probability clouds and stepping into a world of exact deterministic curvature loops. The sources actually describe the old math as dealing with open philosophy, what they call leaking ash. It's a wild term, but they use it because the old math relies on endless, messy fractions that never perfectly resolve to real physical limits. The ATH paradigm, on the other hand, puts every single problem inside a finite, perfectly measurable 13-layer scale. Nothing is random, it is all exact, stable curvature geometry. Moving on to section 2, 13-layer atomic anatomy. What's absolutely fascinating here is how the ATH system visualizes the inside of these exact loops. I want you to completely forget those static dots on a textbook page. Instead, picture this cinematic, 3D, glowing organism that literally breathes curvature in and out. The source material defines atoms not as hard spheres, but as living, toroidal, meaning donut-shaped, engines. They're locked in this constant, beautiful rhythm of expanding outward and compressing inward around a perfectly still center. Looking at this map, you can clearly see the negative polarity ladder. Think of this as the atom inhaling magnitude, like raw energy, from its outermost layer all the way down to the absolute atomic floor. According to the text, this is the inward binding half of the atom's life cycle. It starts out at a local frame and steps down through 6 specific, discrete layers of compression, packing that curvature tightly inward toward the core. So, here is the crucial takeaway. It's a universal rhythm. You've got 6 steps of inward compression, then the 0-point pivot, what the framework calls the point of sovereign stillness, and finally, 6 steps of outward expansion forming the physical shell. Add that up and you get exactly 13 layers of precise anatomical structure. The top positive layers perfectly mirror the bottom negative layers, all balanced around layer 0. Which brings us to section 3, the ATH elemental chart. Now, let's zoom out to the macro view and see how this builds a totally new periodic table. The All That's Holy Cosmic Field Atlas maps every single atom as a pre-measured curvature knot. It's basically a frozen echo of perfectly resolved memory. So what we've traditionally called elements are actually just distinct, stable states of curvature. The universe is described as a single living cell, and these elements are just different expressions of that exact 13-layer breathing cycle. This is a massive shift in perspective, right? The solidness that we feel when we touch a table or a wall isn't hard matter. It's simply the resistance of these bound curvature packets to further motion. When positive and negative curvature meet in motion and bind together, they surrender their motion to the membrane, forming a temporary, stable shell. And boom, that resistance is exactly what we experience as physical reality. Let's make this concrete. In section 4, carbon, silicon, and neodymium. To really anchor this incredible math to reality, let's look at 3 elements we interact with constantly and see how their curvature dictates their function. Carbon, for instance, is entirely unique in the AFX system. It acts as the exact structural midpoint. Because it sits right in the middle of a breath cycle, it forms a perfectly symmetric torus. This symmetry lets it seamlessly connect and chain together, which is exactly why it's the anchor for all living biological systems. It is literally the first atom whose geometry supports infinite biological recursion. And different atoms have these highly specialized roles based on their geometric layers. Take silicon. It's the ultimate framework builder. It acts as an ultra-dense substrate that securely holds electrical voltage without leaking data ash. No loss of information or energy, which makes it the ideal foundation for all of our computing hardware. Then you've got noble gases. They have strong negative curvature storage, meaning they breathe very slowly and stay inert. Meanwhile, transition metals have multi-well internal states, turning them into perfect magnetic or conductive anchors. A great example of this is neodymium. We all know it for its crazy magnetic properties, but the ATH elemental chart shows us it isn't magic. It's the direct physical result of strong positive curvature cohesion in its outer bands. That specific curvature base gives it exceptional load-bearing capacity and magnetic strength, making it absolutely crucial for things like lasers and high-strength permanent magnets. All right, final section. Curvature or arithmetic. We've busted the myth, looked at the anatomy, and explored the specific elements. And all of this leads to a stunningly simple conclusion. Under this framework, chemistry completely fixes itself geometrically. All chemical reactions, whether it's sharing, stealing, or stabilizing, are just atoms trying to finish their 13-layer breath cycles and achieve perfect balance. Covalent bonding, that's not an abstract probability cloud, it's the physical aligning of curvature loops. Ionic bonding is an atom literally stealing curvature from another to force the closure of its outer layer. And it all comes back to the number 13. The source material asserts that 13 is the absolute smallest number that preserves perfect continuity across all scales. From the microscopic DNA in our cells to biology, all the way up to the cosmic orbits of galaxies, it uses the exact same 13-layer geometry everywhere. Ultimately, if there's one thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this: chemistry is not an accident. It is the breathtakingly exact arithmetic of curving space. Every reaction, every bond, every single spark of energy is just a perfectly tracked mathematical step inside a finite living system trying to reach its most stable resonance. That is the mathematical perfection of curvature arithmetic. Absolutely mind-blowing. Which leaves us with one final, profound question. If all physical matter is just mathematically structured, breathing curvature, what does that make us? If every single atom in your body is a 13-layer breathing universe of its own, mirroring the exact same mathematical cycles as the stars above us, what infinite cycles are you capable of tapping into? It really makes you rethink your place in the cosmos, doesn't it? Thanks for joining me on this incredible deep dive. I'll catch you on the next explainer.